This sculpture is titled Viewfinder. It's part of a series of works all called Maps for the Temporary Inhabitant. The sculptural works in that series are based around the idea of landscapes and landforms being used as markers and maps, specifically for nomadic lifestyles. A nomadic lifestyle for an environment that's constantly changing. I was reading essays about Arctic nomadic communities and the different ways they navigate land that might only be hospitable for portions of the year, land that might be solid ice for some months, and what happens when that ice disappears during warmer months. So I was finding a way to think about a smaller, more portable landscape and what that could look like. A chunk of land you could, in essence, carry with you. In Viewfinder, as well as my other works, I incorporate forms that mimic objects found in nature, like rocks and cliffs, stones and boulders. I make references to surfaces that are eroded, and in Viewfinder, you'll notice there's a hole that can be viewed through the top of the sculpture in the white stone. I also wanted to break up the space of the solid structure of the base, so allowing for this open moment creates a breath or a pause. And it also reads like a sight, the hardware that allows you to view through a frame. I use a lot of different materials in my work. This sculpture has a foam core that is surrounded by a plaster and resin, and then it's hand painted to create that gradient from blue to white. There are a few inlaid ovals, you'll notice, and those are dye sublimation prints on aluminum that I cut and manipulate into the work. Those prints are also gradients, but at a much tighter scale, so they can be read as a whole or a vibrating moment that interrupts the surface of the sculpture. On the lower left-hand arm sits a water-carved chunk of livestock salt, and you'll also notice pieces of concrete are embedded into the side. All of these elements play with how you, as the viewer, read and understand the surface of the work, but I do leave a lot of room for the viewer to have their own interpretation. The work definitely lives in between abstraction and realism. I like it when the structures can be read as both a natural form, but also something more unexpected, like a play on what is a pedestal. When I make work, I think a lot about the body and how this body relates to landforms in space. How do you approach the vastness of a landscape in a way that can be understood on the scale of a person? The size of the work is human scale. It has a presence that feels familiar, like a body. And you'll notice this as well in the other floor sculpture that's also in the exhibition.